Morning, all. It's Thursday. The Masters is on. The boys just came out yesterday, along with Invincible. And by the way, part of the noise, I think they're like cutting a tree or some shit down. Like, I live on a golf course. So, I don't know how this video is going to turn out audio wise. But I got some shit on my mind. As you can see, I went to the University of Arizona. Live in Scottsdale now. But I'm really frustrated with the world right now. With my world right now, not like, geopolitics or shit like that. No, I'm frustrated with my reality because, I quit my job a few months ago and it seems like I'm trying to like break the mold of my conditioning and tell myself that I don't have to lead a normal life. My conditioning being things like, you need money to lead a happy life. You need money to lead a normal life. My conditioning also saying like, go to school and graduate and get a job and start a family and die and obey. Take your meds. Go to the dentist. Shit like that. And to a degree, I think, social media is kind of opening people's eyes up to a lot of things that are possible. Like traveling on a budget, or how fluoride is a neurotoxin, or how they're spraying chemicals in the atmosphere. Whatever you believe, man. And I know everyone's algorithm is different, but it does help break the mold. And in some ways it helps, it doesn't help, it works in the opposite way as well. In a lot of ways it's restrictive. It keeps people consuming and believing something is normal when really it's not. But it's really hard for me right now to break the mold of my conditioning because since birth, that's when the conditioning begins, really. It's like that Brave New World book by Aldous Huxley, where all the babies are played in audio on repeat because that's their conditioning, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like instructions or some shit about how the world works, like love is bad, shit like that. And that's honestly somewhat accurate. Like, you get to preschool, you have to respond to your name. You have to raise your hand to go to the bathroom. You have to stand in line. And then you're taught things that don't matter. You're not taught how to pay taxes or how to live in the world, how to write a check, how to invest. Like, you're not taught any of that. Unless you study that in college, and then there it's like all theory, But I'm trying to break basically 23 years of conditioning to rewire my mind into thinking that the conventional way of doing things isn't necessarily the only way or isn't necessarily the right way. And that's my frustration right now. And I take full responsibility, I take full accountability for that too, you know. But a huge part of my frustration is the fact that I'm running on savings, pure savings right now. You know, I got rent, I got bills to pay. Not a lot, you know. Granted, I'm single, no kids, no responsibilities, I got cheap rent. You know, I got a family that's pretty supportive, and my car's paid off. I'm fortunate, you know, I got a good nest egg, but it's a net negative overall, and I think it's scaring me a little bit because if I get to the point where it runs out or whatever I'm doing here doesn't work out, then I think an option of mine is to just give up and get a job. You know, they say the job market right now for people my age, Gen Z, is tough, but really, I have a pretty good connections in real estate, in development. I got pretty good resume. You know, I have pretty good skills. So it's not that hard. And if you're really struggling, bro, like I know motherfuckers who can get internships and jobs like that at like some entry level sales position that's commission only, and maybe you can't afford that, but maybe you can do that for a year. I was doing that for like almost a year, and it worked out for me. So, you know, move to a place like Scottsdale or Miami or like New York, where yeah, maybe the cost of living is higher, but the opportunity is also significantly higher. My video just cut out, but I was saying that that's the version of me talking right now that's assimilated in society, you know. That's that hasn't broken the mold of my conditioning. And a thought I had this morning was that in any field, even content creation, you know, in some other shit that I maybe want to do, writing, starting a business, it's all the same, you know. The principles of how to be successful in that particular field are essentially the same. You have to network, you have to be liked, there's like a social hierarchy, there's a hierarchy, there's metrics of success, and something that I have to understand is that although I'm trying to break the mold of my conditioning, everyone else is still conditioned to believe reality is a certain way. You know, everyone else went to school. Everyone else perhaps got jobs and just got these ideas, you know, instilled in them that you need to stay in school, you need to get a job, you need to start a family, you need to die, you need to obey, you need to whatever. You need to stand in line, you need to answer by your name, you need to listen to authority. Like, yeah, we all come from different backgrounds, but we're all kind of taught similar shit. And there's like a pecking order to shit. To essentially everything, man. You know, I thought, and I still do think that I can just post a random video online and build an audience like that And sure, that's all fine and good, but man, it's not really working out for me, man. And yeah, my content is not great. It's pretty much just me talking. For me, like posting memes. You know, I had a stroke and I'm working on my road to recovery, so I have a couple accounts focused on that aspect of my life. I post, you know, shit I write on Substack. And I know that if I want to be successful in that, I have to kind of bend the knee to the algorithm in a way. I have to make content that's kind of favored by the algorithms. You know, even if it does take away from my art or my message, that's how I develop a platform. And then I can then push out my art and push out my message. But for right now, I feel like I have to dilute the quality of my message slightly. And honestly, I don't even really know what it is. I don't even really know what it is that I'm trying to convey to the world. You know, like I said, I had a stroke when I was 16, and I was paralyzed. I had aphasia, meaning I couldn't talk. But in my head, like I could think clearly. Like my cognitive ability was still sharp, although I was hopped up on like morphine, fentanyl, Dilaudid, shit like that. And I had a blood clot in my head, but my cognitive ability for the most part was pretty sharp. So I would have conversations with myself in my head because I couldn't have conversations with anybody else. And that could drive a motherfucker insane, by the way. Like that's, but I was surrounded by loved ones. Like my mom probably stayed there. She left once or twice. She was freaking the fuck out, man. And I love her to death. And clearly she loves me. But where the fuck was I going with this? Oh yeah, I got like a bunch of letters. You know, I was a popular kid in high school, so I got a bunch of fucking letters. They had a vigil for me at my school. I had teachers, coaches, friends, peers, people I've met maybe once. I remember I would separate the letters into a pile of the ones that like really struck a chord in my heart. And one of them was from a chick that, you know, I sat next to her for the first day in middle school. And she wrote how, like, I made her feel less nervous about being there on the first day of middle school because it's nerve-wracking. And I made her feel, you know, comfortable assimilating to that because she was scared and anxious and whatever. And then we probably never talked after that. You know, she found her friends, I found mine, whatever. But I'm bringing it back, trust me. Another letter was from a teacher of mine, my debate teacher, and from must have been 8th grade. My debate teacher, and that was probably like the most fun class ever. It's like he was also he directed the plays, the school plays and shit. So he wouldn't even be in the class half the time, and I would just be there like ripping the cart with like my friend Samir, Kendall, ripping the vape. And it was like my first class. It was like 7 a.m. I'm fucking ripping a weed cart. And anyways, I remember it wasn't necessarily him, but it was someone else that wrote a letter to me who was also in that class, Renee. And she was friends with my sister, whatever. And she wrote me a letter, which I don't remember at all. But then at the end of it, she said, Mr. Wells, my teacher, my debate teacher, emailed her and said, the world the world deserves to hear your opinions. And that really inspired me for a long time. That really gave me a lot of confidence to write. Although I wrote only to myself in my journals and whatnot, I felt like I was writing to the world. I felt like I was portraying my opinions to the world. And I wrote from a perspective of someone's going to read this one day. It was never like, dear diary, this had this, and this happened. It was more like my perspectives and my opinions about certain things and like my emotional stuff. But now I'm taking it a step further and posting shit like this, posting some short form, posting some other content online, because I still have the idea that the world deserves to hear my opinion. And that one little line from my professor, or my teacher rather, in 8th grade, over a decade ago. Well, I guess not. 23. So, almost a decade ago. Like, really hit home and is really inspiring me, And I'm so early on, like, I'm still reading comments, dude. And if I get, like, one negative comment, I get pissed off. I get embarrassed, man. Grown-ass man, we used to go to war. And I'm over here getting embarrassed at some stranger telling me that I'm wrong, that my shit is invalid. Ridiculous, dude. But nah, man, I'm trying to figure it out. And I got over 10 social media accounts across 4 different platforms. And I'm thinking, that's got to increase my odds, right? One of them's got to hit. I'm trying to build a brand. I'm trying to build something that transcends who I am, that you can look at and not even know my name or see my face. But you recognize my brand, and that's what I'm trying to do. I don't know, man, but I know it's on me, perhaps, to make better content or bend the knee to the algorithm or say more worthwhile shit, introduce more novel thoughts, be a better writer, be more articulate. But I'm trying, man, and I think trying is fucking cool. And hopefully something hits before I run out of savings and have to get a job again. Because that would be me giving up on life. That would be me giving up on my dreams and my goals. And this shit is getting fucking annoying. I gotta go, bro.